I've got something I'm really excited to share with you today. If you have been a trumpet player and have been in the online trumpet space for the last 20 years, you will remember Laskey Mouthpieces and Scott Laskey. And unfortunately, Laskey Mouthpieces went away when Scott Laskey died, and which was a shame because his mouthpieces were beloved and played by so many artists and hobby players and amateurs and students, like just really, really great mouthpieces. And I'm really excited to tell you that Laskey is back, and it has now been purchased by the Eastman Music Products company, and the mouthpieces are being made in Canada at the Backun factory, where they've got state of the art manufacturing to do it. And I have one of the initial prototype samples here that I was fortunate enough to get my little fingers on, and I am really excited to get to share these with you today. And I'm really excited to tell you, these line up with the Laskeys that I personally own and my recollection and memory of the Laskey mouthpieces. I'm really, really excited to have these back in the marketplace because these are really fantastic. Why am I so excited about it? Good question. Okay, buckle in, buckaroo. This might be a bit of a story. So most of us are familiar with Bach mouthpieces, right? It's the most ubiquitous mouthpiece. It's the mouthpiece that is in the marketplace. Most of us started on Bach mouthpieces. These are mouthpieces we're very, very familiar with, and there's definitely some good mouthpieces and some good designs in there. Vincent Bach definitely had some great stuff, but those designs all go back. And the manufacturing techniques go back to the 20s and 30s and 40s. They're really, really dated. And unfortunately, a lot of those designs have been kind of changed over the years, and not necessarily in improvements. And then the way the mouthpieces are still made today at Bach is just like they were made back then, for better or for worse. And in my mind, I think with all of the modern production we have today, we can definitely do better. And one of my big frustrations with Bach mouthpieces is they're just not super logical. They're somewhat logical, but they're not as logical as I would like. So for example, you would think if you just take something as simple as a 7C, a 3C, and a 5C, and if I tell you the number refers to the diameter, the higher the number, the smaller the diameter, and the letter refers to the cup shape, and the earlier in the alphabet the letter, the deeper the cup, then you would think that okay, well then 3C, 5C, 7C, those are all the same cup shape, and it's just the diameters are different. That's the only difference between those, right? That's what you would think. You would be wrong. The 3C has just slightly more internal volume than the 7C. They're almost otherwise an identical mouthpiece. And the 5C is basically a 7C, but with a sharper, more uncomfortable rim. And so there's just not a lot of logic to the way the Bach mouthpieces are organized, and their consistency has often left something to be desired, which is why you get people talk about well, this mouthpiece has this on it or has that on it to try to determine what era the mouthpiece is made in. In today's day and age, we just don't need that. We can have the consistency through CNC that just makes it so much better. And so with Laskey, what you have is a set of mouthpieces that are inspired by those original Bach designs, but made using high quality, consistent manufacturing that we have available to us today, and a logical progression, so that you can reasonably, as a consumer, figure out what mouthpiece should I try, what mouthpiece should I get. And that sounds so obvious and simple, and they're not the first maker to have done it. Other makers have done it. But this is taking the Bach, improving on the Bach design, and then putting logic throughout the catalog so that you more easily know what to get. And that in itself is just such a great boon for trumpet players. And the other thing that's really nice in this day of $200, $300, $400, $500 mouthpieces, these are really, really nice mouthpieces, and they're $100 as of launch right now. So I think they're really, really great. So let's kind of go through some of them. I've got some notes over here that I'm going to reference because I want to make sure that I get everything right. So if we start with the smaller end of the scale, and so we'll start with maybe the 40 series. The 40 series, in Laskey, the number is telling you it's the inner diameter. So it's the 40 is telling you I think it's a 0.640. And that's going to be really similar diameter to a Bach Mount Vernon 10.5C. And in that 40 series, you can have a C cup, which is just like a classic copy of the 10.5C. You can get an S cup for a shallow cup if you need like a little more support and easier upper register, but still having like a pretty good sound. And they have an extremely shallow cup, the ES, for like a real focus thing for upper register playing. So you can, if you are a 10.5C player, you can logically pick your cup depth based on the demands and the music what you need with that 40 series. The 50 series is the same idea, but with a 7C modeled after the Mount Vernon 7C, but with essentially professional quality specs and backbore manufacture all the way through it. And once you get into the 50s, you start opening up into your cup options too. So you can get a B cup for people who want like a darker, richer sound, but don't want a wide diameter mouthpiece. They want the better endurance, but they want that darker sound. So you can get a B cup. C cup, which is like, a better version of a 7C. The MC cups is one of my favorite. It offers a little bit more support and a little bit more brilliance than the C cup. And I think that MC is like a really, really popular cup for the people that I've had try it and play it. And then they make an S cup, which is going to be the shallow, and they make an ES for lead trumpet. And then they make a pick style mouthpiece as well for that. So that's the 50 series. And I'll play some of these here in just a minute. The 60 series, kind of the same thing. This is based on a Mount Vernon 5C. So again, you are getting like a slightly bigger inner diameter. And they make that in the same series as the 50s, which is a really nice choice. The 65 series is going to be, I think, a very popular mouthpiece for a lot of folks because it's very similar to the 68, which is going to be kind of like a 3C or something like that. But with a softer bite. So for those of you because sometimes people with the Laskeys, many people love the bite because the bite gives you a place it kind of like sits in and you can find your spot. And people I literally had a player tell me this yesterday. That's what he loved about the Laskeys was like the bite. But for some people who don't want that, the 65 offers that a little bit smoother. And you can get that in the B cup, the MC cup, the S, and the ES. But they also offer it in an MD cup, which is going to be a little bit deeper than the C cup, but not as deep as a B cup. So if that makes sense. And then on the 68, the 68 is a good all-around size. This is essentially very, very similar to like a 1.5C. Depending on how it feels in your face, maybe even a 3C possibly. Medium rim thickness with a decent bite. And that's available in all those cups as well. The 70 series has the same rim shape as the 75 and 80, but in a slightly smaller diameter and gives you a little bit more brilliant sound than like the 68 series. And available all those same cups as well. Then the 75 is similar for the 80 series, but just again a little bit smaller and available in the whole series of cups. And you have the 80 series, which is essentially like a Bach 1, a Mount Vernon 1, and it's available in a deep cup. It's available in a B cup, MD. So like this whole gamut of cup sizes in there. It's really, really nice. So if we were to like kind of run through those sizings once again, if you were to think about like a Bach 1, that would be around like that 80, 84 series in Laskey. The 1.5 would be like a 68 or 70 series. A 3C, 3B would be 65 to 70. Kind of, it depends on how you play and how it's going to feel. A 5 would be in the 60 series. The 7s would be in the 50 series. The 10.5 would be in the 40 series. And then when you get into things like 50s and 30s, you're getting into even smaller mouthpieces, with the 30 being similar to like a Schilke 6. So really, really nice mouthpieces. And the kit that they gave me, they just I didn't get to pick sizes or anything. They just kind of sent me some random sizes. Now, I tend to mostly play mouthpieces that are kind of in that 7C-ish range in terms of diameter. So because I do all kinds of playing, I like kind of having that field between a 7 and a 5, somewhere right around there. I can play larger mouthpieces and play smaller ones, but I kind of just go middle of the road, which incidentally, the 7C was originally picked and it became so popular, not because it's a small mouthpiece but for beginners, but because it was a middle of the road mouthpiece to start on. And in today's world, people think the 7C is like a small mouthpiece or a beginner's mouthpiece, and it's incorrect. It's the middle of the road mouthpiece, and there's nothing about that size that makes it a beginner anything. So it's a really, really good choice. Can you tell that I'm passionate about that? Okay. So if we look at like this MC cup, you won't be able to see it in the video here, but I'm going to go ahead and waste our time and show it you anyway. But there's essentially kind of two bowls here, and on the top half of the bowl, you've got an entrance in, very similar to what you would have in a normal C cup, and then the bottom half of the bowl starts to kind of come in, and that's going to give you some support, especially if you're an efficient player. It's going to give you some support, so that you can more easily play in the upper register without getting winded or tired. And I love these mouthpieces for that. I have not played a lick today, so you're going to hear the first notes of the day, unless I make an edit because the first note's really crappy or something. But this size and this cup is one of my favorites. Really, really nice cup. I like the rim for this. It is a softer rim. I probably, for me, would pick something with just a bit more bite, because I do like having a little bit of bite on the rim. But for those of you who want that classic like 3C style feel of rim, this is a really, really nice choice. Here I'll move over to the 70 MC. Great sound. Sarge approved for sure. Great sounding mouthpiece. MC is kind of one of my favorites. If we roll over to the C cups, here's a 60C, which is again like their version of a 5C. I love the way this mouthpiece feels and sounds. Also Sarge approved, but I really, really like that C cup. It feels great. Like I said, it's got a little bit of bite, which I like that bite because it helps me kind of set in right where I want to set on my top lip. Let's see, here's the 70C, which again is going to be, what, like a Bach 1.5, if I remember right. Yep. Great sound of mouthpiece for that. Here, let me find one that I haven't played. Show you what this C cup looks like. See how well that shows up. I don't know. I'll look at the video after I've done it. But just a really nice traditional C cup. And then if we look at the MDs, which is the medium deep cup, I've got a 70 MD and a 75 MD. So we'll start with the 70 MD. You can tell that I've not warmed up. You can also tell I don't normally play this big of a mouthpiece. Some people will love that mouthpiece because it does have like a richness to sound. I don't like it because I can hear on the high C I'm like slightly flat and I'm losing support. And I don't need that rich of a sound for me. So I don't love it, but other people are going to freaking love that MD cup. I hear that all the time for people that want their horns to sound like a cornet. I own a cornet, so if I want to sound like a cornet, I'll just grab that. Here's the 75 MD. So the 70 MD is going to be very similar to a Bach 3B. And now I've got the 75 MD, which is going to be kind of like a Bach 1.5B, if such a thing existed. Weird. I like that better than I liked the 70 MD. Huh. I wonder if that's just me getting acclimated and playing a few more notes today or what. Let's see. No, I like it better. Huh. I'm surprised by that. I don't usually like bigger mouthpieces, but that 75 MD really, really feels nice and sounds really good. And what I'm hearing for is that high C just comes out, speaks really easily, and it's in tune. And so, yeah, I do like that quite a bit. So, yeah, I'm very excited for these mouthpieces. We needed something in the trumpet world that is very well made, like the stuff these Laskeys are, that are consistent, like the Laskeys are going to be, that is using logic in the design that people can understand, that has enough cut variation to meet the needs of players, so that you can get, yeah, I've got this mouthpiece from a wind ensemble, and then an orchestra, and then I can get this and a shallower cup for playing in big band or something like that. So I like that you have all that. And that's affordable. At $100, this is a no-brainer. This is this is a professional quality mouthpiece for $100. Can't beat it. So yeah, I'm really excited to see these. So much so that I've gone ahead and ordered the full line for Ernie Williamson to have them in stock. I like them that much. I think they're going to be great. They were hugely popular in the 20 years ago in the late aughts, before Scott died, and so I'm really happy to see that the folks at Eastman and Backun have brought them back. So yeah, head over to ErnieWilliamson.com. Search for Laskey and put in the sizes that you're looking for. I'll throw this chart up there as well so you can kind of see it. But find what you currently play, and then you can experiment with that. And I think you'll find intonation's better, the consistency's better, the rims feel really, really great, and they sound wonderful. So give those a shot. Check them out. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.